You're good.
Call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 5:30. Today is the 10th of March. All commission members are present. To my far right is Commission Member Jim Brown. To my immediate right is Commission Member Hal Hutchison. To my far left is Commission Member Tom Davis. My immediate left is Commission Member Bob Bailey. I'm Chairman Harold Wright. This commission is an advisory board of the Natrona County Commissioners. Our decisions, I skipped a part here. Better introduce the staff. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Jason Gutierrez, our development department director, and our planner, Trish Chavez. I'm out of practice, Trish. This commission is an advisory board for the Natrona County Commissioners. Our decisions are subject to approval, conditional approval, denial, or modification by the Board of County Commissioners. For each application on the agenda, we will hold an official public hearing. These hearings are recorded, and there will be written minutes of this meeting. After this commission holds a public hearing, unless the application is tabled or withdrawn, the Board of County Commissioners will hold another public hearing for the application. Tonight, everyone will have an opportunity to address the commission. First, those in favor of the application may address the commission. Then those opposed to the application may address the commission. Finally, the applicant may give a brief rebuttal. When the chair recognizes you, please come to the podium. Clearly state your name and address before giving your comments. This doesn't look like an unruly crowd tonight, so I'll jump the rest of this. Please turn off your cell phones. Do we still have our sign-up sheet in the back? Don't forget to sign in back there, please. With that, I'm not liking this.
It'll stay on, I think, with your hand up. There you go.
We'll open this hearing. I need approval of minutes from the last meeting, which is so long ago, December 10th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move approval of the minutes of the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission of December 10th, 2019.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this agenda item? If not, all those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that, we'll open the public hearing. CUP 20-1, a conditional use permit to allow land reclamation and drainage improvements. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, conditional use permit 20-1, an application by Mr. Trito. Request and location. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for land reclamation to improve his land and make it more suitable use and provide for proper drainage. The property is located on the south side of CY Avenue on Douglas Road. The address is 3799 Douglas Road. The parcel is approximately 2.2 acres. Parcel location you can see here. We are along CYs. We're headed out toward Paradise Valley, and behind the old Farnham's Furniture or Chop Shop is Douglas Road. You take a left there on Douglas, and Mr. Trito's property is the second property on the south side there. Zoning, you can see it is in the commercial zoning district. City of Casper is crossed and down CY a little further. Some light industrial around there also. Here's an aerial of the property. This aerial is a bit dated. You can see there the subject property is surrounded in the purple highlighted box. A CUP is required for land reclamation and fill that is not associated with a building permit and not controlled by the regulations of other government agencies. A letter was issued to the applicant to apply for the CUP for unpermitted land reclamation. The planning department has received complaints about drainage from the subject property onto Douglas Road and the adjacent properties as a result of the grading without proper engineering. The applicant is applying for general site grading to improve for positive drainage away from the existing building and to prevent stormwater drainage into the adjacent properties. Here you can see a photograph from Douglas Road looking to the east of the subject property there. There's been a fair amount of soil removed from the south edge of his property line. This is looking down Douglas Road. Again, the subject property there on the right or the east side of Douglas Road. Yet another photo. Conditional use permit criteria. Conditional use permit is an authorization which allows a landowner to use his property in a manner compatible with the zoning district in which it is located, provided he demonstrates compliance with all standards and criteria encumbered in the zoning resolution and specified by the board. The commission and board shall require showings concerning all of the following. 1, will granting the CUP contribute to an overburdening of county services? Applicant's answer, no. The proposed grading plan and recycled asphalt surfacing improvements will improve the site for better access to the entire property. The grading plan also includes an updated grading of Douglas Road, providing improved access not only to the site but to the adjacent properties as well. Staff's proposed finding of fact. The grading and drainage improvements will make Douglas Road and the subject property more accessible for emergency response and any other additional services. Douglas Road is not maintained by Natrona County, but is dedicated to the use of the public. So it's another one of those dedicated to the use of the public, but we don't provide any maintenance for this road. Will granting the CUP cause undue traffic, parking, population density, or environmental problems? Applicant's response. Increased traffic or the need for additional parking is not expected with the proposed grading improvements. Staff's proposed finding of fact. By permitting land reclamation for drainage and grading as designed by WLC, there will not be any negative impacts to traffic, parking, population density, or environmental problems. Will granting the CUP impair the use of adjacent property or alter the character of the neighborhood? Applicant's response. It will improve the use of the adjacent property and will not alter the character of the neighborhood in a negative way. The regrading of Douglas Road will direct the stormwater runoff to the east side of the road, minimizing impacts to the adjacent westernly properties. Adding recycled asphalt base to the road will improve the look of the road, increase the access, and reduce existing erosion. Staff's proposed finding of fact. By grading and providing for drainage on the subject property and Douglas Road, the CUP will not impair the use of adjacent property or alter the character of the neighborhood in a negative way. Finally, will granting the CUP detrimentally affect the public health, safety, and welfare or nullify the intent of the development plan or the zoning resolution? Applicant's response. The proposed grading plan will clean up the existing area, provide a hard surface to reduce vehicle tracking of mud off-site, and improve the road control. Existing areas will receive recycled asphalt surfacing, will include the removal of weeds and unsightly vegetation, allowing for a better fire control of the area. Staff's proposed finding of fact. The grading plan will provide for drainage, hard surfacing, improved access, and stabilization of the southern property boundary. This will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. With an approved CUP, the land reclamation will be compliant with the development plan and the zoning resolution. Public comment. To date, Natrona County Development has received no comments on this agenda item. Staff has sent out public notices to 14 neighbors. Staff also spoke with the Wyoming Department of Transportation, WYDOT. There were no concerns with this permit. The drainage and culvert along CY Avenue have been sized appropriately enough to handle the additional flows from the site. When we contacted WYDOT, they were aware of the dirt and the mud that gets tracked out on the highway. They did not have a concern with what was occurring there. Proposed motion. Staff proposes a motion and vote by the Planning Commission to recommend approval of the requested conditional use permit by the Board of County Commissioners with the following conditions. The land reclamation shall be completed by the applicant and inspected by the county surveyor/engineer within 12 months of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. Staff also recommends Planning Commission incorporate by reference of fact set forth in the staff report in this public hearing. With that, I'd answer any questions the Commission may have. I know we do have the applicant here and WLC Engineering that can answer some specific site questions associated with what is being proposed.
Al?
Mr. Chairman, I was out there looking around, and it's just, when we had all the snow melt last week, and, that's just a mess. It's mud. So anyway, I take issue with the, stated, with the assertion that granting the conditional use permit will not cause, among other things, undue environmental problems. So I wonder if one, the Hugh or somebody would be involved. That road was just a mess. It's muddy, tracked onto CY. Going on, sir.
Okay. I'll let the applicant and WLC also speak to this, but their plan here does show at least some asphalt recycle base being put on Douglas Road from CY Avenue up to the subject property.
Now, that, just on the ditch. In that ditch appears to be, but
Looks like the roadway surface, we'd have the applicant come clarify it, but it looks like they're going to put it on the road also. Do you know of the thickness?
3 or 4 inches. And we are gonna crown, we're gonna have to crown that to keep the water from going off to the west side, so.
so I must be missing something here. I'm looking at this drawing, and
I will confess it's kind of faint.
Okay.
so I'm looking here, it says proposed concrete servicing, proposed recycle. So that right there is the recycle deal. I assume that is what that was.
Cross-hatching is hard to see. You are planning on,
It's very hard to see with the image in the background. Yeah, there should be hatching all along Douglas Road and on the side. I can point out where,
could you come up?
if you would, yeah.
Do we have a better map, bigger map, Jason? Did you get a bigger one than this? Okay.
So if you can see here, this is the latest building he built. He's looking at putting recycled base in the yard and all down Douglas Road. That's was indicated, and then there's, we're gonna look at seeding the ditchway. Probably check dams in there. I think when I brought the image, my hatch didn't show up very good. Okay.
So we're looking at, in order to prevent water from, and that was directed by working with Jason Gutierrez, crowning that road there so the water didn't cross over into the Farnham's area.
Mr. Chairman, as long as we've got him
Yeah.
here. Hal, I don't mean to step on you real quick, but as long as we've got him here, where is the erosion control mat on this drawing? I couldn't see where there was a crisscross area anywhere on here.
See where the steeper area is here?
Okay.
That's where we're looking for the erosion control mat. Anywhere there was 3 to 1 slope or steeper.
Oh, okay, I couldn't see. I looked at this thing with a magnifying glass, and I never saw the crisscross. I'm sorry, Hal, that was something that was...
Better on the computer, I apologize.
Okay, all right.
So the erosion control mat for that steeper, anything 3 to 1 or steeper, we like to put erosion control mat, because unfortunately on that property, the upper property, all the drainage comes down and flows onto his property, so there's no way to prevent that. So by putting erosion control mat, we can prevent erosion coming off there and then drain it around, and by putting that culvert, catch that water and take the culvert on the east side of it.
We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but can we expand on this while we got him here? It's up to you guys. Okay. Why don't you, Jim, excuse me, why don't you step up there and give us your name and address, please?
Brad Holwagner with WLC Engineering, 200 Pronghorn.
Okay, shoot.
Yeah, I realize it's a tough time to go out and look at that because of the recent snowmelt, but I was concerned about that large amount of water on the east side of the property. How are you going to get that off? The grade didn't look like it was amenable to a drainage to the west out towards the road.
On the east side of
Yeah.
Douglas Road?
No, east side of your property, behind the building. There's a big puddle there. Standing water.
See if I have a photo that's that way.
Yeah, it's around just on the other side of the building to the left of that.
Okay, where it's kind of a
Construction.
low spot now? Yeah, we're gonna have to
Yeah, what
regrade.
are you going to do about that?
We're gonna have to regrade that and direct that to the north, and then put a small drainage ditch to the north. Get it out to the east, to the north, and then to the east, to where it goes out to Tavares Road, into that drainage ditch system.
Do you have a drainage ditch existing on the property now that would accomplish that?
There is a drainage ditch that he's cut in, on the existing portion of the property to the east.
Could you show where that is?
Yeah, if you drive out there, come from the Tavares way, there's a ditch he's got over to the side.
Okay.
It's kind of cut in between. He's gonna have to reestablish it a little bit.
All
more
right.
Once we get these improvements made, but like you said, it's so muddy right now, you just get stuff stuck in it. He's trying to work on it now. In fact, he
Sure.
graded in the ditch, working on, and then, that culvert down there.
Is that drainage that goes to the east, is that gonna be the concrete area over here? It says
No, there's
proposed
just-
concrete surfacing, which is this whole area here.
Well, that's difficult to see at this scale too. This is seeding. You kind of want to do a drainage area and seeding here, and this is, you want to do a concrete, basically a valley pan here. And
To
then-
go that way?
Yes, yes.
Because the arrow
That
goes
way.
that direction, okay.
Right.
And this one's going this way,
Right.
and this is gonna be seeding.
He wants to seed this part here, yes, and then this will be the recycled asphalt. We're going to have to continue and maintain it.
I was gonna say, this is his here, and there's stuff there.
That'll have to be adjusted.
Pour a concrete field here for the water.
Is that
to
his
run
property
here,
also?
Yes.
And it go across the road.
And that comes in from the other direction.
Yeah, you can come
Comes
in,
from the
you
south.
can enter from Tavares Road. yes.
Comes from the east. Okay.
It's a tough deal taking all the water from the property owner to the north.
I have another question.
Yeah.
In terms of this map, is this contoured along that steep slope on the south side as it is now, or before some additional material? It looked like recently some additional material had been removed to actually steepen that slope. Is that the case?
It was, I believe, in order to get the building constructed, so he's gonna have to when he redoes the site and redoes the material, he'll shore that side up and fill that back in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't go away. Hal?
I guess the only other observation I'd have is that, a 12-inch pipe is, I mean, really?
Yeah, 12-inch pipe doesn't, I mean, it'll flow pretty good with the slopes there. That road's like at a 6.5, 7%, so it's,
I guess the concern would be that it just plug up too quickly with whatever. So
okay.
in town here, we use what, 15 or 18 is minimum?
15 is a lot for a lateral. We'll use for lateral.
Tom, you got anything?
So, I guess my concern, looking at this picture, is how steep that slope is there, and you say you're gonna come in and backfill that?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do, I think the worst is a 2.5 to 1, 2.8 to 1. Yeah, he's already brought some material, and that picture was taken before he's shorted up already, so.
Because, how, the way the direction blows, or the wind blows, and the snow builds up, I mean, lots and lots of water is gonna drain right over that.
Right, right. That's why we did the erosion control mat on that slope to get it to be better established, get some vegetation growing on there.
You talk about matting on your drain ditch going down the east side of that access road. What is that, Matt?
The erosion control mat.
Yes.
You've seen it on the side of it, a lot of times when they do YDOT, they'll do on the steeper slopes, that's the coconut fiber fill. They put it in with staples to hold the soil in place so the vegetation can get established and grow and it won't just wash down the side of the hill.
Have you determined the size of that drainage ditch yet,
As far as going down,
down the road?
yeah.
That one that's cut in there right now looks a little bit slight to me.
Right. It's not totally finished yet. We'll do at least 3-to-1 side slopes and foot to 2 feet deep, just to keep it on the side there.
Then you run the mat in after you've established your base?
Yeah, once the ditch is all graded out, then you put the erosion control mat down and staple it down. And we even talked about, during the construction, about putting some check dams, rock check dams down the way, so it slows down the water a little bit.
And you talked about crowning that road. Are you going to crown that back to the east then so that the natural flow goes back to your drain ditch?
Yes, it'll be a typical crown. If you can see the light right now, the existing contours, they're fairly light, but it just cross drains right across there.
Right.
So we're gonna bring that road up and put a typical crown in there to keep it on the
Okay,
east side
and
of
this
the road.
culvert that was in question, or the drain pipe, where's that going to be?
That'll be between the road and where he, and his entrance here, to try to route any water, drain it this way and route any water through, and then put the culvert underneath here so he can come in and out.
Oh, okay. I
And
guess
then
I
you're gonna- then
overlooked
you're
that
gonna-
here.
Oh, excuse me.
No, have right at it.
So then, this is gonna be a culvert right here,
Yes, correct,
and then you're just gonna turn it loose this way.
correct.
And so if you crown this road, you're gonna get some running that way.
Crown the road and then do a ditch on this side to
Right,
keep
but
it on the side of
if
the
you
road.
crown this road, you're gonna get something going that way, to the
Well,
west.
Unfortunately, this water comes, there's nothing.
I'm not unfortunate about here, I'm wondering about down here. You're gonna run it, you're gonna crown this road like this, we'll just say, for fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
contours, yeah.
So you've got water running this way, going into the ditch you're making here. What about the water going this way,
And that
off the
water's-
crowned road?
That water's gonna continue to go to the west.
And you haven't addressed that side at all?
I don't know, I don't know how we can address, we're in a crown road, I don't know how we can address that side of the road, it's not our property, it's.
Well, this road's a county road, so you've got right-of-way somewhere in here, which I'm gonna assume is here, okay?
Right, it is.
I'm gonna make that assumption that that's the county road,
Yeah,
okay?
correct.
The edge. So right now, you've got a distance here to fix that side, because you're gonna have to carry water off of the west side of that road if it's crowned that way. But you're gonna run it right back into this building here.
Could save
I mean-
yourself a lot of trouble if you tip the whole thing to the east side.
Yeah, that's gonna get pretty,
Doesn't take much.
See what I'm saying, though, is you've addressed everything coming off of him and running down the east side of the road, but if you're crowning the road, you're gonna get, let's just say half of the road, if you crown it the center. You got half of it running off to the west, which you haven't addressed, which is gonna be caused by him doing all this. My thought would be is you gotta figure out what to do on this other side, or you're gonna flood out this guy. I'm not an engineer, so you tell me I'm wrong.
well, I won't argue.
My next question, while you're pondering on this, on your inlet into your culvert up here, you're going to put a trap in there, I assume, to catch any garbage or anything that's trying to go down there and plug that off?
It'll be a flared-in section, I don't know, would we be amenable to go to 18-inch?
Might do, put a wire mesh, like a garbage trunk there.
Okay,
You're about gonna have to,
okay. Okay.
okay?
I know
That clears me up.
some
I don't-
people like them, some people don't. you know,
Well,
so-
if you don't, you're gonna plug that pipe, and if you plug that pipe, the trouble starts, and it gets real expensive to blow it out.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question.
Yes.
So does this falls under the requirements DEQ and a pollution prevention plan, right?
Yes, you will have to do a SWIP before any other improvements are done. You won't have to send it in, but you'll have to, it's under 5 acres, so you'll have to have a SWIP.
So it's already started, so is one of those prepared?
I'm not aware of that one. I don't know if he's done some moving, but it's so muddy out there coming in and out. We'll definitely have to get one in place before we.
Well, that's the reason for my question. When I was out there, so much mud that, I'm surprised DEQ hadn't jumped on that already.
Well, let's get back to order here. We kind of got out of sequence.
As far as addressing the west side of the road, the main plan here was to address the water coming from his property, and working with county staff and keeping on the east side of the road, so his water, he wasn't contributing water across Farnham's to the other side of the road. So that's the approach we took and when we laid out the design.
And I have to assume when you talk about resurfacing here, that's probably Rhoda-Mill he's gonna put down on this
Yeah.
road?
Recycled asphalt, yes.
Okay. Because I get to drive by that almost on a daily basis. I'm familiar with that, watching that road and the mud and stuff that's generated, so.
But just by adding the recycled asphalt on there, that's gonna help a whole lot, especially with ingress and egress from his property.
Yep, without a doubt.
Mr. Chairman, I feel a lot better about it, knowing now that that does show recycled asphalt on the road. I just couldn't,
I apologize, I should have made it more clear.
Yeah, I couldn't see any there either, but,
Yeah. Well, thanks for the explanation.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous about the mat that you put in that barrel pit. If it ever gives up, the way that country washes out there, it's gonna be big-time trouble.
It'll have to be, ideally, once we get it installed, the drainage ditch, we can start with check dams and seeding and get that established, and later come back with some erosion control mat. It'll have to be, like with any stormwater pollution prevention plan, we'll have to monitor it and make sure that it isn't getting additional erosion in that area. This site will be very prevalent, as you mentioned, driving by every day, so it'll definitely have to be addressed as a continual until it gets established.
Yeah. I know that there's sometimes even the delivery trucks can't get up there. You see them parked down there on the entrance going in there. trying to
It's a
figure
very
out how to
steep
deal
slope,
with it.
and unfortunately, a lot of it contributes upstream above Mr. Trito's. And I don't, unless we can go back and make, have them reroute their ditch water and stuff, which would be great. It would be a big help to Mr. Trito. I don't know how we can fix it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a lot of erosion that comes from the north there.
I agree. Jim, are you done? Tom?
Well, you keep talking erosion's coming from the north. It looks to me like all the erosion's coming from the south.
Pointing the wrong direction, I apologize.
uphill.
I was pretty sure the mountain's to the south.
The mic got you, Tom.
Roads uphill.
Bob, are you done?
No, I have a couple questions, and maybe, Mr. Chairman, maybe this is for Jason, or maybe both of you. Is there any type of continued maintenance agreement going to be with this? I can see this thing going and saying, boy, it's wonderful, and in 3 years, the whole damn thing is, all the road base is down at the street, and what happens there? Do we have some vehicle with which to keep some maintenance going on that thing? That's one of my questions.
There is a vehicle. It would require the property owners in that neighborhood to get on board with that, and that's called an improvement
Improvement
service,
district.
service district.
You don't have one for this CUP to say, we're gonna make you do this type of maintenance
No, 'cause
agreement with
that's
us here?
a statutorial deal where there's a percentage of folks that have to be in favor of it to form it.
No, I understand the
It would definitely
HOA.
behoove the neighbors to get together and do that now so that you could protect that investment that he potentially is gonna put in here, and that investment would be, it wouldn't take much to keep it in good shape, but, agreed, without that, it's gonna be a tough row to hoe in, say, 10 years.
Mr. Chairman, one other question. Which way, you said that if we route the water on the east side of Douglas Road, that there's adequate drainage at the highway?
The
So-
highway department didn't have any issue with this water being.
Which way does that go? Do you know which way that,
It'll be heading east.
Heads east.
it goes west or east?
East, going east.
It goes, so it'll come down and it won't
Won't
have a
cross.
tendency to come across
No.
go to the west, it'll go to the east, okay?
My understanding is it follows that borrow ditch of CY clear down to the old High Country Liquors, and there's a significant culvert underneath CY right there that drains it across.
Down to the river, okay.
Any more? Okay, thank you, Jason. Oh, now we'll get back to the formality of this. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this agenda item? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this agenda item?
Can I,
Just jump up here.
there's only just me here, so. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chaz Farnham. I have the adjacent property for the past 30 years. In the last few years, it's been quite a mess up there. As everybody knows, there's local here. We do a lot of truck traffic up there ourselves, so we use the road a lot. I think over the last 30 years, I probably put about 100,000 into that road, strictly by myself. In the last 3 years, it's been absolutely ruined. I'm not an engineer, so I have absolutely no idea how this crown's gonna work, but I am concerned about the crown. If it is gonna push off into my property, it's gonna be just another puddle of mud that I can never remove. I'd love to talk about that if I knew what I was asking for exactly. But I literally can't have clients, customers come up, pick up their furniture. We have tractor trailers getting stuck on this road now. It's never happened before. We have tried many times to discuss this. I'm glad we're at this point. I just want to definitely reiterate what you guys are saying, that in 3 years, you know, if it's going to be exactly the same, you can put all the road base in the world on this at any height, but if the mud's going to come straight back past this property and just cover the road base, it's exactly the same situation, just a little bit higher. And that's my concern. So I'm just hoping this works. I'm a good neighbor, been there a long time. I'll gladly help maintain it with you, and whatever it takes, I'll gladly be part of it. I'm the only one that does snow removal anyway there. Nobody else even tries to in the last 30 years. So I have to do all the snow removal, which creates mud too, wherever it lands. That's just, a lot of water comes through there, and a lot of water does come up from the south down the north. Both properties, I'm just really concerned about where that, as long as that crown works where it pushes, 90% of the water. If it happens where it comes into where our trucks land and our tractor trailers come into my warehouse there, if I have to build another, like I said, I've done this 4 times probably in the last 15 years, just make sure there's positive drainage, trying to get it out towards the road with no issues. I'll do it again. But as long as it's something that's just everything ends up on my property, that's all I ask. And I'll do whatever I can to help. That's about it. Thank you.
Hold up.
Oh,
Any questions?
Any questions for me?
Yeah, Al?
So, I didn't go up there because it was too muddy, but farther south, beyond Trudeau's place?
yep. Oh,
is that-
sorry.
Is that used for anything up there, or is that just access to
It's not really used up there at all. Do you really see many people coming up and down that road?
They cannot get up there because they get so bad.
Yeah, it gets so muddy and bad. But it's just basically us two.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of mud that actually comes from above the properties. That's already seasoned, and it just, it's basically water.
You mentioned the mud's gonna come from up above and just cover
From this property here, if that mud comes starting to go down, where this picture shows here, my property would be adjacent. So any mud that would start there and work across the road all the way down to CY Avenue. That's my concern. That's the part we use. That's the part everybody uses. Mr. Tretto and myself, we use that road constantly now. I've always used it, and like I said, I have graded that thing, I don't know how many times, 6 times, and it's cost a lot of money. And as you know, it's not cheap. I don't have my own equipment, so I got to borrow somebody else's. And they don't like to give it away for some reason. I have no idea why. So I try real hard, trust me. And I'm just really concerned if that is not shored up properly, if the drainage is not there. Above that big hill there, all that dirt there, it really is dirt, but if there's no traffic using it, and traffic only used that recently, before that was cut off right there, it wasn't used too much at all, except for going around towards the east. So it'd be around the southeast. They was using that as a semi-road there. Can't really get a good picture of it above. Oh,
I was looking for
There.
yeah, so if you look at, I guess the southeast is where it would be, that road is being used, and it started becoming a bit of a mud tunnel through there. But above that, you asked about the, towards the south, that's a seasoned dirt road, and it just water comes down. It really doesn't bring a lot of mud. But now, since the building has gone in and the construction equipment goes through there, and it's pretty heavy equipment, it has really obviously devastated that area to the point where it's costing me a lot of money, a lot of embarrassment. Tow trucks just to get tractor trailers out, which now they won't even try. So we literally have to take our delivery trucks, go to the bottom of CY Avenue, unload them by hand, go back to the warehouse. I mean, I don't know how to tell you how much that really costs on an annual basis, but it's starting to stack up a little bit. It's becoming annoying. The guys don't like it either, so. Sure.
Yes.
So, question for Jason. As a conditional use permit, this is an annual permit, right?
So we go out and we review them on a regular basis.
I would answer that as once every 5 years, as a rotation, I try to.
Okay. I suppose,
Can we do it annually for the first 5 years to see how it takes?
I wonder if.
I don't know if that's possible.
Given those concerns, that we could put that on a priority list or something.
I don't even know if that's normal or not.
See
Just,
takes and what have you.
I'm willing to work with somebody just to be a happy neighbor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Tom?
My concern is that what's really probably contributed to this is when we went back in and cut back into that bank and made it as steep as it is. And that's created all the mud. Am I wrong in my thought process?
No, that's exactly where it began.
I guess my concern is like everybody else, is there's gonna have to be some drainage on the west side also, so it doesn't run into your property.
Agreed?
Otherwise,
We just had culverts on both sides, but they weren't really culvert, we took some small equipment and we cut troughs, I don't have the technical words, on both sides of the highway dozens of times. So when there is runoff, it works its way that way. And we built a little berm on each side. They're long gone. They have disappeared at this point. In the last 3 years, they have absolutely disappeared. So we have tried to address that, including some road base at one time, but that's completely gone at this point. So yeah, there's plenty of water that runs down there. And we haven't even got to the rainy season yet, so it's going to be interesting. And in front of the warehouse there too, in front of his or his shop, you know, that's, right now, there's no cement there. I believe you're in front of his shop, he's gonna add a pad or something.
That'd be the west side?
So it'd be, I guess the east side of the Douglas Road, the west side of his building. Right in front of his building, that's where he would park his vehicles or whatever. He's got stuck in the mud there quite a few times with his own vehicles, which is also gonna bring mud to the road, which is gonna cover the road base. I'm sure I'm gonna put in quite a bit of money when that job's done to redo my property again. So you and all that mud is coming from the hill right behind him too, on the south side, back to that big steep hill. So it's gonna take a little work,
Mr.
but
Chairman,
it's doable.
I have a question for
Yeah.
staff. Jason, in your recommendation, you say that the land reclamation shall be completed by the applicant, inspected by the county surveyor engineer within 12 months of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. Now, at that point, when that inspection is made, I'm assuming there would be some redress of any kind of outstanding drainage problems, would there not?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that 12-month was just a staff recommendation that we put out there. We could talk, we've got the applicant here, if there's any modification to that needed to happen, we could surely incorporate that in your recommendation also.
Mr. Chairman.
Hustle along with that.
Pardon?
We need to hustle along with
Okay.
the years too long.
I will.
Go ahead.
Mr. Farnham, is there a culvert where I look at, there's kind of a black car parked right there at your main building, and there's two black cars, I assume that's your storage shed there, but there's no culverts or anything in that road there. You've tried to put a borrow ditch in or some drains there.
We
But
have.
you still, it's gone now, is that?
It's
is
completely,
that what you-
it's completely gone.
Okay, all right.
It's worn out.
So there's nothing on your side of the road to carry the water like there would be?
No, I
on
did that about 3 years ago, completely redone that whole thing about 3 years ago. Then it's gone, so.
Okay. Yeah,
That's all I have.
Question for Jason. Jason, what's the city limits here?
Am I done?
It's a highway.
You get any more questions?
So
for me?
far, we can call you back.
I'm not too far.
I believe the city limits are on the west side of Paradise Drive. I don't believe they go on the east side, do they? I'm looking at Trish.
It's not city limits east until you hit Walmart. West would be, right there where that car dealership is.
Okay.
Right.
Extension of Paradise Drive.
Right where that says private drive, right there.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this agenda item? Back on schedule again. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this agenda item? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this agenda item? With that, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for recommendation or approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move approval of conditional use permit 20-1 based on the details of the presentation given this evening, and based on the findings of fact presented by staff.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes.
I guess,
A second is in motion. I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to that.
Okay.
Is that okay?
You bet.
Yeah, I would like to see this in here. Again, referring to recommendation by staff, I'd like to amplify that a little bit. The land reclamation shall be completed by the applicant and inspected by the county surveyor engineer within 12 months of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. And if upon inspection, it is determined that remediation of drainage is required, that a plan for that remediation be presented to the Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission at that time.
Okay, I have an amendment to this motion.
I'll second that motion so we can have some discussion on it.
The amendment?
Yes, the
Okay.
amendment.
I have a motion, a second on the motion, and a second on the amendment. With that, before I call for a vote, I would ask for any further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have some concerns about the other side of the road.
Okay.
And with Hal's amendment, I'm going to make an assumption.
With my amendment?
Jim's.
No, I'm sorry,
Jim's.
Jim's amendment. His amendment to your motion.
You could,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to make an assumption, but my assumption would be that because of your amendment, that the county could look at the other side of the road at that point. And is that what's meant by that also?
yes, thank you, Bob. That if remediation of drainage is required, and I think that would apply to the whole enchilada.
If that's what your intent was, then yes, I would go with that amendment. I would be in favor of that amendment so that they can look at the entire picture at that time, and maybe Mr. Farnham wouldn't have to go back out and spend thousands to redo his drainage ditches that have been gone away now. The option to that would be is make him put it in this. So with your amendment, I could live with that.
Okay. Now I'll call for the vote.
One more, my concern, I'll be voting no on this, but my concern with, I don't think we want to be, as a planning and zoning advisory board, I don't think we as a board, I don't consider myself as one being in charge of being the policeman for this. I think that should be staff's job. So if the drainage is not working the way it's supposed to, I think that should be up to staff to provide the necessary enforcement and coordinate with whomever to have that taken care of.
I think that's probably implied. It would have to come before staff anyway, before it came to us, Hal.
Yep. Yep, and their recommendation would bring it back to us.
Okay.
All right, with that, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of this agenda item with said amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This motion carries. It'll be heard in this room. What's the date, Trish, please?
April 7th.
Be heard in this room at 5:30 by the Board of County Commissioners, April 7th. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your input, Mr. Farnham. With that, let's see. My computer screen went to hell, so now we got an update on the natural resource plan.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's been a while since we met. Wanted to bring you up to date on that. For those of you that, well, I guess all of us were here when we adopted our plan, and within our development plan, there is a chapter on natural resources. And that natural resources chapter is set up so that when federal or state agencies come in to do activities on federal or state properties, that gives us a seat at the table to be able to talk about the impacts that has on Natrona County. Well, nationally and both within the state of Wyoming, it was found that there was a number of counties that didn't have natural resources plans or needed updating to their natural resources plan. So the governor's office had some legislation and then some funding available. It boiled down to $50,000 was given or provided if counties applied for either the creation of a natural resources plan or an updated natural resources plan. Natrona County solicited proposals. We were able to hire a consultant. The state of Wyoming is totally paying for that through this grant, and so we're going to get an update to our natural resources plan. We've had a couple outreach meetings. We had one at the fairgrounds and then one in Evansville. We're soliciting input from all of the partnering agencies. I think Trish just received information from BLM. We're sitting down with Game and Fish. Going to try to incorporate all this in and update our natural resources plan. That chapter was kind of a mystery to some of us when we were adopting it, and so hopefully this will help give some more. It's a lot of data about, and Natrona County is a huge percentage of public land, so it's very impactful that we list all of our important things. So wanted to give you that update.
Good. While you're there, update on the zoning resolution.
So our 2000 zoning resolution, that's kind of our playbook or our rule book that planning and development uses on a daily basis. That's really what decides when folks are coming before us for a conditional use permit, permitted uses, you name it, it's all in that zoning resolution. Well, that's a 20-year-old document now. And it's been a point of contention for a while that we need to update that. Society has changed since then. I mean, just take the RV instance that we discussed here a few months back. Society has changed. It's time to update our zoning resolution. So we did also there too, per the commissioners, we put out a proposal. We received RFP from each one of them. It was a qualifications-based process. Their fees were in a separate envelope, so no one on the selection committee was aware of what fees were. We bounced the county legal department did open all the fees, and we shared that with the county commissioners of a range before we got into interviews. To update our zoning resolution ranged from $173,000 to $261,000. The commissioners agreed that we could proceed with interviews. We contacted Chairman Wright, and Commissioner Brown was on the selection committee for that. We interviewed 2 consultants and ultimately came out of that with a recommendation. There was, but to back up a step more, Mr. Brown, myself, Trish, Todd Kittle, which is a local realtor, landowner, developer, and Commissioner Jim Milne were on that selection committee. And so we've come out of that with a recommendation. We presented that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. They unanimously gave us a thumbs up to proceed with contract negotiations with the firm. The bottom price was $207,000. Looks to be about an 18-month process to update our zoning resolution. It'll cover over 3 budget cycles. To do so, a lot of outreach is going to occur, and we'll be, of course, keeping you up to breast with public meetings, and it'll be a process. We'll get a lot of input from a lot of folks and come out of there with a zoning resolution that is meets the community needs and hopefully a little more user-friendly.
Any questions?
Who was the firm?
The firm is, I can see them.
You can never remember. It's Logan Simpson, and they're out of Fort Collins, Colorado.
They've done a lot of work locally. They've done work with the city's comp plan. They've done work in Mills. They bring in a wonderful legal assistant. That was part of it too. We wanted them to bring in their own legal so that it wouldn't overburden our county attorney with the process. So they brought in a great legal team. So looking forward to it for sure.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything for the good of the community? Ghosts, talk to me. If not, I move adjourn. Entertain a motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. We are out of here.